Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel and give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Get on that now.
Russell Wilson, John, is he unhappy? Dan Patrick pulled it out of him. He wants to make decisions. He wants to be in on player personnel decisions, John. He mentioned, actually before I mentioned that, there was also this report that people were calling about him in trades.
That came out on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
Or I guess Super Bowl weekend, which in itself I didn't think that much of, right? Because there was just a lot of things coming out. Just like, people just trying to get the internet streets moving. Then to me, what day is today? We're recording this on Tuesday, so he would have gone on Dan Patrick Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Almost, is this orchestrated? This has a little bit of, remember, like Jimmy Butler storms out of practice, and then at night Jimmy Butler was sitting down with Rachel Nichols. Like, what, did Rachel just fly out from LA? It felt like, did Russell plant this to get like then Seattle's thinking what's going on, and then he's sitting down with Dan Patrick kind of making a power play. I haven't quite put all the pieces of the puzzle together. I just know this. I have it red flagged. Something's going on. Like, it's not even arguable now. Locke and Fora, who you can argue sometimes, not always on point, but it said something that Russell's camp had been mad that he's getting hit too much. He mentioned that with Dan, like, I'm tired of getting hit so much. I just saw I didn't watch the visual. I just read the audio. Sometimes you just read a tweet can be taken out. It can read different than it sounds. But it's not like the evidence is in something. Might not be much, but I don't think they're just crossing arms singing Kumbaya right now in the Seattle front office, Pete, John, and Russell, right?
No, I think that much is absolutely clear. I did watch.
Offensive coordinator just got fired.
Yeah, I mean, there was the thing with, were they going to trade him to Cleveland? Remember that story a couple years ago for the #1 pick? And then there was the story Ciara wants to go back east. Was that part of a contract negotiation kind of time?
Yeah, but it also felt – but then you're like, it kind of makes some sense, New York Giants.
Yeah. The one thing I saw a clip, like what I watched, some of the stuff he said, I saw clips. I do wonder if he would have appeared on Dan's show anyway because he was the man of the year in the NFL. So that's possible, but whatever. It doesn't matter why he was there.
Good point. There's media that comes along with being the man of the year. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, they show him at the Super Bowl sitting with Roger Goodell, Ciara. Give her credit. Wearing sunglasses at night. I wish I could pull it off. I would fall in 2 steps.
But can you see anything?
I don't know.
I mean, we've all maybe done it a little intoxicated. You can't see. How does PFT commenter see anything?
That's a great question. I've tried. I remember trying to, in a bar in Boise, I tried to walk in with my sunglasses on. And I couldn't do it. I looked drunk, and I was, but not for that reason.
You can't see anything.
Can't see. So, could you see this guy actually getting traded? I mean, one thing, I'll tell you when my antennas went up watching the interview with Dan is when he mentioned Tom Brady and LeBron James. Right? Russell Wilson mentioned Tom Brady and LeBron James. And if you watch, it was a pretty reasonable thing because Dan would not let him get off the hook on, do you want to be involved in personnel decisions? And, Tom goes to Tampa, and what does he do? Like, Gronk is here, and AB's here, and Lenny's here. And, of course, LeBron's got an agency, basically. LeBron's running organizations.
Basically.
Oh, not basically, literally. Yep. So, yeah, I'm with you. There's something there.
My question would be is there's always been a little bit, and I think this is part of any negotiation, I'm sure. I've never been a part of one. When you're investing as much as you have to do with a superstar quarterback. Remember his first huge contract extension, they had leaked out remember his agent was a baseball guy. And it was like, he's going to break barriers, first ever guarantee. Turned out not to be true.
Fully guaranteed, right?
Cousins was actually broke the barriers, but kind of, right? He had to take 3 years, not like 5. Last year or 2 years ago when he got his big extension, his second one, I mean, let's not get it twisted. Russell's made a lot of money, right? Clearly off the field, he's made a ton. Like, money is not the driving force now. I think when I watch Russell, just a couple of the clips, the text, do you agree with this, read different than just when you watch him with Dan? Like, he's not like controversial towards Seattle, like just smoother.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because Dan is a fantastic interviewer, and Dan doesn't let guys off the hook. So even Russ tried to get around it, and Dan's like, "No, you're not answering my question though."
Yeah. I felt, and he used this term, like my legacy, the team's legacy. Like that's when you say that's the point in time of his career now, he's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He's invested in startups. He's fucking super rich. Money, he's already at like Stafford's point in terms of he's so rich, it doesn't matter, even though he's going to keep making a ton. But he's already got pelts on the wall and already headed to the Hall of Fame.
And like Brady married to somebody who's really rich. So his wealth goes far beyond his football earning.
So I think he looked at it like, we just lost in the first round at home to a team that was rolling out a backup quarterback and then brought in the guy with a broken thumb. Like, I'm at the point now where I'm just getting judged like Russell and like Tom, right? He's in that wave of quarterbacks now. Like, he's not talked about like any of the younger guys. He's kind of in that group of, you know, he's going to be Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, where for the next 5-6 years, we're just talking about like adding pelt to the wall or not.
Right.
And I wonder if he looks at Seattle like, they've been pretty hit or miss, right? They've drafted running backs and missed. They've traded for guys and missed. Now they did draft DK, who's been a star for them. They drafted Tyler Lockett, who's been a star for them. I think they're always pretty aggressive. They trade for Jamal Adams. I just think there's an element, if you were put yourself in Russell's shoes, where you just go, it's not good enough. Like I just look at other teams and they do a better job. Even if I will tip my hat and say, you did try. I don't think like you're mailing it in on me. I just want better. And I'm at the point now where I need more say.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the vibe I got, which, listen, are we sure Seattle trusts him to get say? Like, what are you going to tell me, Russell, that I don't already know? Right? I think that's where I think you get like, who knows more football? Like, Russell is their most important player. And this is where I think you get into murky water in these situations. So Pete goes, okay. And John sits down with him. We're going to listen to you. Well, when I say that, and we use Deshaun as example, the moment I don't listen to you and I take your advice, that's almost worse than never asking you. It's like,
you're saying the moment I don't listen to you and I don't do what you asked.
Yeah, like I sit down with you, guy, and I say, what should we do today or something?
Yeah, and he goes, I'm telling you, Larry Fitzgerald's got something left.
Exactly. We're like, we need to get
Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, and then I do the opposite. I go sign Akello Weatherspoon for a quarter of the price and then draft a guy. It's almost like a bigger fuck you to you.
Right.
Right? And whatever the podcast equivalent would be, I don't listen to you. You'd be like, why'd you even ask me? Well, because you told me to ask you. But you're just doing that out of pandering to me, even though you never had any intention of listening. And that's where I think it gets weird in football. In basketball, it's so easy. Like, oh, LeBron wants Rajon Rondo. Okay, cool. No big deal. In football, it is a lot more complicated, right? Because the money difference of $1 million can be the difference of signing a guy and not signing a guy. There is a clear line of delineation for guys that fall off a cliff when they hit ages in other sports that, like, at 30, like Patrick Peterson might be shot. Or he might have one more all-pro year. It's going to be one of the two. If you told me Patrick Peterson next year is a Pro Bowler, I'd believe you. If you tell me he looks terrible, I'd also believe you. And that would be a guy, like, clear. I don't think Russell's like, hey, this third stringer on the Eagles, I was watching some special teams tape. Exactly. I think he's the next star. Like, that's not who he's bringing up to you.
Right. Russ is like, I worked out with this guy, and I'm telling you in the 5th round he'd be a great receiver.
Yeah. And
that's where you could be helpful. It's like, hey, I worked out with this guy in Southern California. We should look at him.
The meetings I've been in for free agency or the draft, they would welcome that conversation. But coming in there and listing the 3 most famous guys is like, yeah, Russell, we know. We've been in, and this is unfair. I don't know if Russell's asking for Patrick Peterson, but it does feel kind of like whoever that equivalent maybe is, a guard or tight end or whatever, right? Like, look at this year. I'll give Seattle credit. They signed Greg Olsen, right? They went out and signed a guy that maybe he had something left. Last year they drafted DK Metcalf. They went out and put all their chips in the middle of the table for Jamal Adams, trying to improve their defense, because the better a defense is, the better a team is. Yeah. It is a team sport.
Yeah. But that's where I'll go back. And I should also say the other thing that they've watched is the Aaron Rodgers situation. I think the Tom Brady thing specifically, though, I tweeted during the Super Bowl, Tom Brady is only throwing to people he signed. Because he threw to Gronk, and he handed off to Lenny. What's the other one? Who was the other one?
Antonio. He threw
Antonio, right?
Toward the end of the game. Yeah, he tried to get him a touchdown. Oh, he did get him a touchdown.
He got him a touchdown. And somebody had a great reply to me. They were like, no, he's only throwing to the people he trusts. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Now, is that really what was happening? No. I mean, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they're number 1 and 2 on the scouting report. They schemed Gronk open. But I do wonder if you watch that and you're rushed, you go, I just watched this guy in the Super Bowl. All the guys that scored were the guys he brought to the team, the guys that he trusted, the guys that he wanted. Now, the response would be, yeah, well, Gronk's like our fourth option on offense. And yeah, you're right about Leonard. And AB, did we really need him? Like, that would probably be the response from the Seahawks, right?
Wasn't Seattle rumored to be in on him? Remember that?
On Leonard Fournette?
No, Antonio Brown.
Oh,
like
yeah,
they were
that's
one of
right.
the teams.
They were.
I would say any troubled wide receiver over Russell's tenure as the quarterback, Seattle is always like, dude's been busted 17 times for drug failures, but he can run a 4.4. Pete Carroll. Like we always, and they brought in Josh Gordon. They were sniffing around on AB. Like I don't think, to me, the Packers have more, and Aaron has more of a beef. Like sometimes we just cut corners, we take the easy route. I do not view Seattle like that. They have taken swing after swing. Do they always work? I think his comment, John Schneider's, would be back to Russ. Like the nature of this business, not everything's going to work. If I just listen to 100% of the things you say, no one's going to be perfect. Right. Now, is there something in the modern day? Do you listen to some of his talk? But that gets back to, do you know how much more film John and agent and just different talk these guys have of what a guy's going to cost? They have to do big picture analysis of their salary cap. I'm not trying to defend like the front office relative to the quarterback, but Tom has infinitely more experience. He's infinitely more accomplished. And it took him leaving Belichick, who did not listen to him, to go to Arians, who, let's face it, we're desperate. I don't think Seattle goes, we're not desperate. Like, we win every year. But I think Russell's pushback, going to the playoffs now is nothing to Russell, right? It doesn't, he's expected to. Mm-hmm. Anything less than a failure. He's now judged on winning, which I think is kind of bothering him. Okay, Russell, you want to trade? Let's say we trade you the Jets. They give us 3 first-rounders. The number 2 pick, their other first-rounder, and a first-rounder next year. So, okay, that team's way worse than ours.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah,
what do you want? Miami, maybe?
Miami. Yeah. The other thing.
What would you think about it if you could get like 3 1s and 2 2s and a player back or something and just completely start over, draft a quarterback, reset your franchise?
Yeah, I would think about it in part because of how expensive he is.
You just traded 2 1s and a 2 for Jamal Adams. That's not really, that'd be a quick shift.
And it would be, you're like, oh, great, we reloaded our picks. Fantastic. What are we going to do with Jamal Adams now?
What could you trade Jamal Adams for? A 1?
Yeah, probably. I guess you probably would have to turn around and trade him, right? I would think about it just given the expense, but ultimately, there's no way I would do it if I were Seattle. I wouldn't. I know he's aging, but physically he still looks very good. Seattle is a very good sports town, right? Like when they open back up, selling tickets to that bad boy is a big part of what they do.
He owns not just Washington. I think he owns Oregon now. Like they've become such a big Seattle area. Seahawks because of him. He's the most famous Seattle Seahawk ever by a mile.
Yeah.
Right?
The only way I would do it if I were them is if I was getting a pick that I knew guaranteed me a quarterback that I liked.
That's why it'd have to be Miami or the Jets.
Yeah, because...
And I actually think Miami makes some sense. If you're Miami, I'd rather get Russell than Deshaun.
Absolutely. But I also think, we're talking about a GM who over the last 5, over his tenure, an organization, has anybody cared less about first-round picks? I mean, now the Rams seem like they care less about first-round picks. But...
Belichick had a run.
Belichick doesn't care about first-round picks. But they, the reason they trade out of the first round is because they look at the 21st pick and go, how do I know what that's going to be? So that would be, to me, the organization that looks at their quarterback and goes, I know I've got a superstar quarterback. Like, they just love the known, which how could you not? So.
But remember one of the rumors a couple years ago when it was like a tangible rumor that was out there. Whether it was true or not, I don't know, but people were talking about it. The Browns trade. 3 1s, and one of the ones was the number 1 pick. Because if you're getting the number 1 pick, that's worth multiple ones. And we know that. And it was like they really liked Baker Mayfield. Let's say they had done that. That would have been a devastating move for Seattle. If you traded,
because their team's
Russell
not as
Wilson
good as the Browns team is. So the Browns would look good right now.
They'd be fucking incredible.
Now, I guess they would have traded a couple of the picks. Who would they not have drafted?
But I'm just saying, even in a vacuum, win or loss, you would have been like, you would just look at it. We got rid of Russell Wilson ultimately to replace him with Baker Mayfield. Like that, you don't shake that. And I wonder if you're John Schneider, that has to be in the back of your mind. Like, I loved Baker Mayfield. I thought he could be like a Russell. If that's even true, you just would do the MMQB and be like, God damn, that would have got me fired. I remember he just got a huge contract extension. That would have been one of the most devastating moves in GM history.
Yeah.
And Baker's not even terrible. I'll give him that. He's gotten better. But relative to Russell, that would have been a fireable offense.
What would you even bother calling if you're the
Honestly,
Niners?
it might have got them both fired.
It might have, because they've taken a
know,
lot
but-
of heat now and they got Russ. Now, I think they would argue like, yeah, well, we're paying him a lot of money. It makes it harder to build a team around him,
Which is true.
which is true. Would you even call if you're the Niners, or would you be afraid that like,
Yeah, just to me, it's back to my division thing. It's a non-starter.
yeah, but would you call? If you're the Niners, if you're John Lynch, like, hey John, what's going on? Schneider, just checking in. Is this rest thing real? Because you're right.
One philosophy I've taken is anyone that asks me, like hey, I got a business idea. Even if I like read an email and like, what is this? I just reply. It's one of the things I hated as a scout. Like, why do I need to look into this? And now looking back, like you do kind of need to look into anything. So yeah, I mean, you'd be negligent at your job to not place a call.
But I agree with what you said. 0% chance. To me, if the Seahawks decide to trade him, they could not trade him within the conference, right?
You're saying you got to go to the AFC?
Yeah, well, at minimum, you're not trading him in your division. Like, he's not going to the 49ers.
You 1,000,000% could not trade him to the 49ers. I would say if you listed the teams, you that would be the
They'd
last
be number
team
one on the list of the teams you can't trade him to. Yeah.
If you were a Seattle Seahawks fan and let's say the Niners gave 5 ones and a player and Russell Wilson went to the Niners, like I would never forgive John Schneider. Would you?
No, because he moved back with all those picks. He wouldn't even use them.
I know.